You might already be thinking that this new Alfa Romeo Junior is just a Vauxhall Mocha with a prettier frock. But if you look underneath, well, there are some technical similarities with the Giulia GTAM, aka the best Alfa Romeo I have ever driven. And if you look on top, well, if you can believe it, it shares a lot with this.
And that's because the Junior was designed by the same person as this stunning 33 Stradale. But thankfully for us lot, it won't cost several million quid like the supercar. It'll start in hybrid form at under 30 grand and be just over it in electric trim, making the new Junior a rival to popular crossovers like the Ford Puma and Volkswagen T-Roc, as well as EVs like the Hyundai Kona Electric and Volvo EX30. And let me tell you, none of those were designed by supercar people.
Now, we're going to talk more about that 33 Stradale in another video, so make sure you subscribe for that. But first, let's look at this new Junior, because I have to admit, it has really surprised me. Now, when I first saw the pictures, I didn't think it looked very good, and I didn't like this front grille either, but having seen it in the metal and the plastic, I think it looks so much better. I really like the way this serpent in the grille distracts you and makes you not notice the radar that's been integrated down there. And also, the number plate now being in the middle, okay, it's not very Alfa, but it serves to kind of keep the lines all together. It's a good looking car, I think, up front, and I'm a big fan of these headlights here, which have 3 segments, just like the Alfa Romeo SZ from the past. That late 80s car looked mega, and this thing with its 3 lights up there looks really cool in the dark. Now, if you come around to the side, you'll spot the wheels on this car are 20 inches and they look absolutely fab. They are essentially an expanded design take on the iconic Alfa wheel. And I think they've done a really good job of making it suit this kind of body shape. It means a big wheel, big car, looks kind of good. And it also exposes big brakes, big red calipers up front, properly Alfa Romeo, and a big disc as well. So it suggests there's some stopping power to be had. Now on the side of the car, this one has a black finish on the roof, so it contrasts the bodywork, this lovely Rossa red. And of course, you can get it body colored at the top, but anyone who enjoys looking at their cars, you should go for the black because it just helps to slim it down. But either way, whatever you choose, you'll always get this black section here, so the window line is nice and narrow. Now this tail, Alfa Romeo fans will know, it's inspired by the Giulia TZ of the past, an amazing race car, and this thing wears it well. I mean, this sort of shape on an SUV is not really a thing at the moment, but it looks really good. And I guess you could say it's a bit MG4-esque with the pinch there, but this looks way better. And it helps to give the back of the car a lot of muscle, and it helps to also slim that roofline down. And I really like the fact that the light bar that runs across here, the little slats in there of the lighting is really nice. Alfa Romeo is clearly proud of it because they've slapped it on their digital screens. And I also like the way that the black here helps to again pinch the tail. Although it's unpainted and it's plastic, which makes me think you're gonna have to pop down to Alfas in 10 years and get them back to black. Alfa Romeo, they say no, basically. They say this is a special thing with a special shiny fleck in it, but And there's another interesting feature at the back here as well. Under this cover, you'll spot there is a nod to Alfa Romeo's past with this, a cover for the charge port, which I thought was made of plastic, but actually, definitely made of aluminium, so it's quite nice actually. And on the subject of charging, this car will charge with 100 kilowatt plugs, and it comes with a claimed 254 mile range, which is right up there with some of the best in its class. And I'm really happy to see that Alfa Romeo has hidden away one of the most annoying things about electric cars, and that is, of course, not the engine, the charge cables, which fit under the bonnet here, so it means you don't have them rolling around in the boot, which we're going to show you in just a moment. But first, earlier I mentioned that this car has some technical relations to the Giulia GTAM, and that's because the team behind that amazing super saloon has totally overhauled the chassis on the Junior. Firstly, it's got stiffer bushes than any other car that uses this platform, and it also gets a quicker steering rack as well, so it should be nice and pointy. But making it pointier still is something I've spotted just today, and that is the negative camber on both axles. It's running with its wheels at an angle, which bodes very well for steering feel and agility, and also handling. So of course, you need to be held tightly in place, which is why I'm glad to see that the Sabelt seats in the front of the Junior are nice and supportive, and they pinch you in the hips. They also look very racy, and the driver-centric vibe they give is carried into the rest of the interior. I love that Alfa Romeo has taken things from the Stellantis group parts bin, but made them feel a little bit more focused on this seat here. So for example, we've got a pair of screens which are familiar, but the one in the middle is lower so it doesn't impede your view, and also it's angled at me. And the system itself is familiar, and it's pretty quick, and all the good stuff that the other cars have, it gets. But because now it works with an instrument cluster that also feels directly pointed at me, everything feels, well, a little bit more analog, even if it is digital. I also like the fact that you can have a retro display on the screen ahead, which gives the Alfa Romeo classic vibe, but if you're a real Alfisti, you're gonna notice one thing is missing from the steering wheel, and that is a start-stop button. Normally they're down here. Instead, this one is in the middle because it has to stick with what this platform dictates. But Alfa Romeo has at least lifted it and angled it towards the driver, so it feels a little bit more interesting to use. I also really like that you have buttons for the climate control as well, so you're not gonna have to fumble in the infotainment system. You can press them and you can also adjust the volume as well with a proper knob. It feels like it's been made for the drivers. Although it doesn't feel the most passenger focused in the back here. There's not tons of space. There's a big foot tunnel down there as well. Plus you don't have anywhere to store things, so there's no door pockets and no armrest as well. Neither do you have anywhere up here. So I'd rather be, if I'm honest, in the front. By contrast, the boot is actually very large. In fact, it is the biggest boot in this class when you compare it with electric rivals. And that's partly helped by the fact that you haven't got charge cables rolling around under here. They're obviously up front. So you've got an underfloor storage zone here, which is totally free, and then another one underneath as well for tools, for example. Plus, this floor itself can be put into several positions, so it's a versatile and very usable boot.
Of course, what I and many of you are probably most excited about is the prospect of a crossover that ticks boxes for cheap tax or family life, but also delivers on the driving front. And with an incoming top electric model called the Veloce with 240 horsepower, and with a hybrid version also in the works, there's some real potential for fun on the school run with this new Alfa Romeo.
So, it's not without its compromises, but something tells me this new Alfa Romeo Junior might just be the first driver's electric crossover. Never thought I'd say that. And to understand why I think Alfa Romeo can make a great handling family car, you need to watch this video here.